No one values time. Everyone spends it extravagantly as if it were free. But see how these same people clasp the knees of physicians if they fall ill and the danger of death draws nearer. See how ready they are, if threatened with capital punishment, to spend all that they have to live longer. Seneca. Welcome back, Full Metal family, to another episode of the Full Metal Cast. I am your host, Moores Walker, and as always, thank you for spending your valuable time, as the quote just mentioned, consuming the content that I create. But two quick reminders, or really 1.5 reminders before getting this episode on the way. Make sure to visit our website, thefullmetalcast.com, to take advantage of our Full Metal Humidor summer discounted pricing. I want to make sure that the humidors were a little more accessible to everybody so that they can be enjoyed in the warm weather with friends and family. And the half reminder is I will be taking pre-orders soon for the Pillar 3 shirts, the ones that say Touch Grass Go Gym that I previewed a little or maybe a couple episodes back now. So be sure to keep an eye out on Instagram, and I'll also announce it in an episode when that goes live. This week, however, I will not be chewing your ears off with the usual anti-state sentiment and my verbalized guntism that I typically like to put out into the airwaves. Instead, I want to share my experience and thoughts on some things that I've really come to appreciate. And some things that I have really been able to adopt into my life and put into practice and really see how they've played out for me and how much they've benefited me. And really, all of these things fall under one umbrella. And that umbrella is being comfortable alone with yourself and your thoughts. And ironically enough, it was actually an English teacher in high school who said that you better be comfortable being alone, since that is the person you will spend the most time with. And that did stick with me. And the reason why that's ironic is that since I was in high school, I was very much a relationship-focused and relationship-driven person. I was always focused on my current girlfriend's happiness and never derived my own worth for myself. Really, I was always kind of deriving that worth through the person that I was with, and I never really did anything for myself. But I felt like I was happy like that. Yeah, I held and still hold to this day that one of the greatest things you can experience in this world is the presence and touch of a beautiful woman who you trust and care for. And as corny and as cheesy as that may sound, I truly do believe that is just the fact. That's just what I hold true. That's what I believe. And so, while I did believe that, and maybe applied it incorrectly or put it up on a very high pedestal in my life at the time, I sacrificed a lot to obtain and retain that. And essentially, I made that the center of my life, constantly chasing having, a woman with me. This, however, like making one thing your personality or the center of your life, it was not healthy, nor was it wise. So I was always a jealous person. I had a scarcity mindset, and I was extremely fearful that I would lose what I held dear. And that hindered my ability to make good choices and just enjoy life in general. Over a year ago, however, the longest relationship I had been in came to an end, and skipping over a typical breakup story, I've been single for a while now, living by myself for the first time without family, friends, like a roommate with me. And I have never been happier or more confident in my life. And that may sound a little crazy. That may even sound a little scary, living completely alone for some people. But being alone and having time to really focus on my thoughts and my internal dialogue, I was able to determine what I need to do in order to get what I want out of this life. So, for example, when I moved to a new city after getting my latest job offer and change in relationship status, I made the decision not to bring a TV with me. Much probably to the fear of some of the people who are women who came back here, who brought on dates for a nightcap, who saw I didn't live with the TV, and they probably started looking for the door or trying to run away. But instead of watching TV or streaming services mindlessly, I'll listen to music or podcasts that I enjoy. I also read as much as I can about how my mind, my body, and the world around me works. And I spend as much time outside as possible, as well as I go to the gym every day, after work and first thing in the morning on the weekends. So that's just like one example. Removing a TV from my life and focusing on the other things that keep me healthy and that keep me happy, um, and also sort of expand, my knowledge as well. Um, it's also important, however, in doing, and focusing on doing those things, to do things just for fun, though, and responsibly, of course. But it was Epictetus who said, if one oversteps the bounds of moderation, the greatest pleasures will cease to please. So I go out and I drink, but only on the weekends. And I never miss Saturday strength and conditioning class. I won't go out every day of the week drinking and partying with the boys, having a fun time. I don't need to do that, nor is it wise to do that. Another example is I'll buy tickets, to a band I want to see, but only if it's not too expensive. And you know what your budget is and what is or isn't reasonable. And in the same vein, I'll go on that weekend trip if it's not too expensive. The last one, and maybe it's not a great example of this, is I got all of my tattoos within the past year, basically. And while I cannot endorse getting them, given the long-term commitment and how subjective everything about them is, I always wanted them. I always wanted these designs for a long time, but I never followed through because I was so caught up in what other people would think. And while that is important in terms, of a career, I will admit, becoming familiar with some of the tenets of Stoicism allowed me to sort of shed that fear and go through with the designs that I've always wanted. Plus, they're all in places that will be covered in a professional setting. So it's not I'm not tats on my face, even though it's covered right now, or my hands or anything like that may be visible in work if I, don't want them to be, but that's my personal choice. I'm simply using it as an example of, doing things in moderation because I can cover them, but also things that I want to do. And so if you're kind of playing along at home or following along at home, you're going to notice that there is a stoic trend in a lot of the things I have done as I have moved to a new city, in a new place by myself. And so really, I think this is going to be a bit of a stoicism in action, in the modern day for the single man living alone, if you will, but they can apply to anybody. But bringing things back here, purpose and fulfillment in life can only be achieved through moderation. To complement what Epictetus said about not going overboard with moderation, Montaigne reminds us why moderation is necessary. He said, lack of moderation is the plague of pleasure. Moderation is not the scourge of pleasure, but the seasoning of it. So again, don't starve yourself of fun, pleasing things, but rather do not be constantly chasing them as the only means to enjoy life. One actually finds that taking part in doing something for fun is even more enjoyable after it has been earned by working hard or waiting to get the opportunity to enjoy it, like going to the gym to get in shape before enjoying a weekend at the beach or by the pool, or waiting until the weekend to go out and drink with friends. Another thing I have really been able to focus on is my perception of time and valuing the present, as I've had so much of it to myself, and to really focus on what I like, what I don't like, what makes me happy, what doesn't, what might suck, but I should go through with it, and what is maybe pleasurable and, it's all sunshine and rainbows, but really isn't good for me and what I want to get out of this life. So I was always never somebody who let a current event become my personality. I never let them determine my mood. In the same vein as the intro quote for this episode, I value my time on this earth more than almost anything, and I refuse to let the little things and or things that do not apply to me get in the way of me enjoying this life. And I really initially took this stance when I was in high school. As I was seeing friends around me and on social media becoming obsessed with politically charged events and headlines, I saw how miserable it made them and how shitty I felt even when I let myself get outraged by the same things. So I very quickly knew I didn't want to be like those people. And if I could not control the matters at hand, I would rather focus on enjoying life and controlling the things that I can control. Now, This does not mean that I am nihilistic, which is sort of a bit of the pushback Stoicism receives, incorrectly, by the way. It's quite the opposite, really, because I value my time so highly, I'm able to filter out things that are just noise and save space, time, and energy for the things worthy of my attention. And this is going to be a bit of a controversial example, but it is a bit of a relevant one, a recent one, and I feel like it probably applied to many people. But riot season in 2020. I did not take to the streets to clash with police or burn my city. And I got a lot of shit for that from the person I was dating at the time because she protested. And I told her I was fine with that. I recognized that her freedom of speech and her freedom to demonstrate was extremely important. And I would not want to tell her that she shouldn't do that because that was her right. Even though our interests didn't align, at the moment. I had no problem with her going out and, demonstrating and marching peacefully because I really also didn't have any interest in being with somebody who was going out there just, start shit or loot or, just cause problems in the city that I lived in. But what was very interesting about that interaction was how heated the conversation started right out of the gate because she knew I would not be joining her before it was even brought up. It was as if I was in riot gear, ready to hit the street opposite of her to pepper spray, tear gas, and shoot her with rubber bullets. I was screamed at. My mental health was questioned, i.e., she wondered if I was a sociopath, and she questioned our relationship. How strange, though, that the one so tolerant and loving could be so intolerant of freedom. But examples of this inconsistency in character, we'll call it, can be found in every single topic that the over socialized latch onto. The jab within the past 3-ish years here being the latest example of this. Pro choicers saw my body, my choice leave their lexicon the second they were able to step up onto a perceived moral high ground so that they could talk down to and pressure anybody who did not align with them. But I digress. Now, I did not decline to march in this example because I disregard black people. I did not refrain from posting a stupid little black square on social media because I hate black people. I did not participate in either of those exercises because statistical gaslighting was in full effect and facts and logic were tossed to the wind. Additionally, both of those acts achieved nothing, and I knew they would achieve nothing in the heat of the moment. My involvement would have only fulfilled some selfish desire within me to be a part of it so that I could demonstrate to others how good of a person I am, or to check some sort of box of purpose in my life.
No, this whole thing, all of this, it's all about me.
Plus, can you think of one person who ate up all of that at that time and wasn't absolutely miserable to be around? I genuinely can't. Furthermore, if I am written off by friends for not marching or posting a black square, then they never were my friends. If our bond was broken because of that, then you never truly knew me. My character is not held up by these actions, or rather, maybe even abstaining from these actions. And if you choose to use those actions to pass judgment, then so be it. In doing so, you have decided to ignore my entire past in all of our interactions. Therefore, you truly are undeserving to be considered my friend, my wife, or anyone worthy of my time. And if you feel the same about me because you believe the opposite of me, then good for you, as is your right. I respect you and your freedom to believe whatever you want, and I will not berate you or view you as less of a human for that. Anyone who has spent more than a day around me will have heard my absolute hatred for tyranny and love for freedom, and limiting either of those to certain races or genders would be an oxymoron in the worst way, and I acknowledge that. However, I understand why I was written off and still am written off for the things I believe. Recall Pillar 4. Beware the frailty of man. We are weak, short-sighted, and emotional creatures, incapable of seeing what is directly in front of us. Stereotyping is a mental shortcut we all utilize as it is a product of evolution. However, the buckets we create for people can never be all encompassing all the time, since human problems are extremely complex, as I have mentioned time and time again. I did not march or post the black square. Therefore, to everyone that did, I am a thin blue line touting, bootlicking, far right white supremacist. Just like the opposite side of the same coin, views those that marched as Antifa extremists, thugs, rioters, looters, far left, uneducated, entitled Marxists. It is hard to comprehend that someone might partake or abstain from these activities for reasons outside of the stereotypical, but try to keep this in mind in the heat of the moment. Also, try to remember in these situations that, like real wars, culture wars are declared by your government, your representatives, and we are sent to fight in them. And just like real wars, they never seem to end because of the benefit, via money and votes, reaped by those who declared them. But bringing things back before we go too anti-state here, to me valuing my time, it was Seneca who said, "Life is very short and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future." He also said, "People are frugal guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. Learn from mistakes and lessons from the past, and do not fear what you cannot control, which lies ahead. Keep this in mind as you go about your life so that you spend your time in a manner that is the way that you truly want." The third and final tenet of Stoicism that I have adopted in my everyday life can be summed up in two quotes. Pillar 1, memento mori, "And it is not death a man should fear, but rather he should fear never beginning to live." That's from Marcus Aurelius. This is similar to valuing my time and the present, but it is different for me for two reasons. One, it is more of a philosophical exercise than valuing the present, as death is the most powerful of the externals, or things outside of our control. It brings about the end to everything we know, and because of this, it is what people are scared of most. Overcoming your fear of death was seen as one of the greatest feats a philosopher could achieve. This challenge is one that I find intriguing, and so I am drawn to it, because if I do not fear death, what do I have to fear? And second, it is the ultimate motivator for valuing your time at the end of the day and focusing on the present. Death puts everything in perspective, and too often people lose this perspective until they attend a funeral, or they are suddenly unable to do the things they want to do in life because they failed to live their life accordingly and time caught up with them. This is my favorite Stoic perspective. I mean, I made it the first pillar of this show and my life, and I have the Japanese kanji for death tattooed on me. Keeping this perspective on death helps me stay focused on the important things in life, and just like how my focus on valuing my time doesn't make me a nihilist, understanding that I will die and that there's nothing I can do about it is no different. I do not give up hope on everything and become depressed by accepting that I am mortal. Instead, I appreciate life and how beautiful it is, and I make sure to do things in this life that I not only enjoy, but also are morally good, as I feel that is a part of my purpose while I am here. And whenever I am on the fence when making a decision, I recall memento mori. Remember, you must die. And I will be able to confidently make a decision when weighing the choices in front of me. I can decide whether an action is something that I want to experience as a part of this life, or if it violates who I am or want to be. And so, a quick recap and tying all this stoicism and life choices to me being happier and more confident than ever, all of these are personal choices. These do not impact anyone else but me. And since I live by myself, I have been able to easily observe how they have played out. And like I mentioned when I kicked it off, I've been more confident and have had more fun in life than I have ever before. Maintaining a strong and healthy body and mind by living a balanced, responsible life has led to an increase in self-worth and pleasure for me. But everyone is different, I recognize. I'll never tell anyone to do as I do. I can only share what I have done and my findings. The good news is, in the case of adopting Stoic principles in your everyday life, the downside to them not paying off is marginal, and you can make adjustments instantly. So give them a try or don't. The good news is you have the freedom to do either. And so, a little bit of a lighter topic, a little more of a reflective, me sharing topic for you to kind of kick off the episode, to cover the first half of the episode, rather. For our little fun shtick here, I've seen one YouTube video. I know there's about 1 million of these going around, but they are so inflammatory, I will say, that I simply have to partake. And that is the definitive fast food tier list. And I think I want to start from the bottom up. I think that's probably the best way to go about it. I've already made it. We're going to start with the lowest tier, the trash tier. The trash tier contains restaurants that maybe we've been to once or twice or never, but we just know, and they have a reputation, and from our own experience, that they are disgusting, the food is awful, and we'll never go back. And typically, as I do these, I don't pay as much attention to the order in which each of these, items appear in each tier or each row. So it doesn't matter if you are the first in line or the last in line. If you're in a tier, you're all equally, the same thing, unless the same level, same rank, I guess, if you will, within that tier, unless specified here. But kicking things off, and I do mean this to be the worst of the trash tier, Skyline. This comes from the state that questionably may or may not exist, Ohio, where those fuckers thought it was a good idea to put chili on spaghetti. That's it. I've never been, I don't need to go, I don't want to go, I never will go. That's disgusting, and people from Ohio hate it too. So on the bottom, it stays and is the ruler of the trash pile. Next up is Domino's. Now, I'll give it up. Everything but Domino's pizza is good. It's all right. It's palatable. Their pizza sucks. And if you're Domino's pizza, it's got to be good pizza. So there you go. That one pisses me off because I grew up around many good pizza places. Domino's was always around too, so we'd have it, every now and then, and it was always terrible. So Domino's sits down there. I think that one's going to ruffle some feathers. Next up is Arby's. Never been to Arby's, and I know they do more than roast beef, but you're known for roast beef, and I certainly will not be going through a fast food drive-through to get my roast beef sandwich. Curly fries are all right. I will admit the curly fries are good, but you do roast beef, and the idea of that is similar or synonymous to gas station sushi in my head. So you live down there. Long John Silver's, White Castle. I've been to White Castle. I've had White Castle. It's gross. It's just like gray meat. I don't know. Maybe I went to the wrong one. I simply did not like it. It's not my style, not my choice. I've never been to Long John Silver's, but it just feels like Kirkland brand Popeyes, I guess is how I would describe it. So those two can live down there because White Castle's gross. Long John Silver's is a wannabe Popeyes, but it's just mostly fish. I don't know. It seems weird. IHOP, I'm not sure who's keeping you in business. And Jack in the Box and Sheetz, I will admit, I've never been to Jack in the Box. Didn't really know where to put it, so it goes down there. That's a bit of an older brand too, from my understanding, but never had it, so maybe it's unfair to put it at the bottom, but there it goes. And Sheetz is a gas station, to my understanding. I don't think there's anything special about Sheetz. Maybe I'm completely wrong and out of touch, and somebody can clue me in. But I'm not putting a gas station further up in the tier list unless it's Buc-ee's. Actually, no, that wouldn't be fair. I've never been to Buc-ee's, but everyone who has, it's like a cult. Everyone loves Buc-ee's. Everyone's got to get the Buc-ee's hat or the Buc-ee's hoodie and tell everyone, everyone's got to evangelize about Buc-ee's. So I haven't been. I'm sure it's great, but maybe I'd have to put it in trash tier only because I've never been. So if there's one that I need to go to, like the mothership one, like the Mecca of Buc-ee's, let me know. I'll make a pilgrimage out there and maybe make an episode out of it. That'd be pretty good. Going one tier up from trash, we are at still around, huh? These are restaurants who we all recognize. We know the brand, we know the logo, we remember the commercials even. Um, but we've kind of let them fall out of our normal fast food circuit, or maybe they're not in business anymore. To be honest with you, I don't think Quiznos is still around, or A&W. I'm not sure if some of these are still around, but they were in the selectable options for the tier list that I went to in Tier Maker, so they went here. So Subway, obviously, they were plagued by too much popularity when they kicked things off. I think they just put locations everywhere and people got sick of it very quickly. Also, you took away the $5 footlong, man, and maybe that's a product of inflation. Maybe go, blame your government for that. But as soon as that happened, it was chalked. A&W, I haven't seen one in forever. I've only been a few times when I was really, really young with my grandparents. So they are still around, good for them. Otherwise, I don't really have much to say about them. Sparrow, they are still around, and now that I think about it, they belong in a bit of a tier higher up, and I'll go over why that is. It'll be actually very clear why that is when we get to that tier. But I've never been to one. I haven't seen one in a very long time, and have not had their pizzas in forever. Steak and Shake, same thing. Haven't seen one in a long time. Never been in. Boston Market, been to only once when I was maybe in like 6th or 7th grade. It was good. I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't see them around anymore. Denny's, Papa John's, Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut is, you know what? I feel like Pizza Hut probably, well, it'd be unfair to pass judgment to them like this, but if I'm staying consistent, Pizza Hut actually should be in trash tier because I think the pizza sucks. That's just me. I told you this was going to be inflammatory, and I told you you're going to hate a lot of this, but I don't like Pizza Hut pizza. I don't think it's good. Have they changed it probably since I've been, however, like a decade or so ago? Yeah, probably, but haven't tried it. Quiznos, pretty sure they're not around anymore. Sonic, it's all right, I guess, but I've only seen like one in all of my travels around the state that I live in, and I'm shocked how they're still around. Really, Penn Station, heard of them, never been. It sounds like an old name. I think it's more of like a Midwest East Coast thing, but I don't know. They're still kicking. Good for them. And that'll conclude the still around, tier. And moving up one, the next 2 or 3 rather are some short tiers, but they did deserve their own. The next tier up is they have food, and the only one out of the list of restaurants available was Dairy Queen that fit this bill. I made these tiers, but these were not pre-made tiers. I was cooking. I was in the kitchen cooking this thing up for a while here. Never had Dairy Queen food ever. I was shocked to actually look up after I saw their name appear here, thinking it was going to be the Blizzards versus all of these other establishments' menus. But they do have like a hot food menu, and I've heard good things about their, chicken tenders or their chicken sandwich, but never been. So that was shocking, and I put them above trash tier, obviously, because I have had their Blizzards. Their Blizzards are very good, and I will go to war about that till the day is done. I just feel very strongly about Dairy Queen Blizzards. They should be higher up, but I digress. Going up another tier here is World Star Fight Club, and this is a bit of a no-brainer. Waffle House. Their food sucks. It's terrible food. However, the 2 things that put them above trash tier are you can go there and watch a UFC, or rather WWE, considering chairs can be thrown at people, fight as you eat your meal, as you're still drunk, which is excellent. And they're open during the apocalypse, essentially, and they will remain open during the apocalypse. So Waffle House is kicking strong, pun intended, right there. And above the Waffle House tier, we probably haven't had their food in a while. And again, this is a subjective tier list. I'm not saying this applies to everybody. This is just me, so deal with it. KFC and Church's Chicken. I do think they make good food. I've just never been. I don't pull over or go out of my way to go to a KFC, nor am I fired up to go to Church's Chicken whenever I see one. I just know they're good and that they're there, really, and I haven't been in a very, very long time. So nothing really more to that tier. Going up one, and the tier actually where Sbarro should be moved up, is the Ohio Turnpike tier. These are restaurants that you only see on the Ohio Turnpike, essentially, or around that area going on a road trip. And you have Burger King, Firehouse Subs, Canes, Rising Canes, Carl's Jr., Checkers, Jersey Mike's, Moe's, and Sbarro. So I will say, I have a couple things here. I do think I struggle with this a lot. Burger King and Jersey Mike's and Moe's actually all make very, very good food. Perhaps, objectively good. Not like amazing, but objectively good food. I think the Burger King Whopper is one of the best burgers. I think their breakfast is criminally underrated as well. Jersey Mike's, I know, makes basically it's Jimmy John's on steroids. It's what Jimmy John's wants to be, and it's what Subway wishes they were. And Moe's is just, your typical burrito place that makes really good things, I know. But I've only been to those places or only really seen those places in mass while traveling through the boring, flat Midwest. So, unfortunately, they get wrapped up in that tier. Raising Cane's, I'm going to say it, seriously overrated, but they get to live in the Ohio Turnpike tier, which is a step down from the actual overrated tier. So, sucks to be them. Moving on to the overrated tier, though, you have McDonald's, Five Guys, Jimmy John's, In-N-Out Burger, Noodles, Panda Express, Zaxby's, and Wingstop and Wings Over, I believe, or just Wings. I'm assuming that's Wings Over because I've had Wings Over. I couldn't zoom into that logo though, so it goes there. McDonald's. Everyone loves McDonald's. I like McDonald's, but objectively, it's not really that great. Like, it's the lowest common denominator. It's cheap, it's quick, it's affordable, but it's not like you don't see lines at McDonald's when employment is at a normal rate, like you do at Chick-fil-A, for example. They're just, and maybe that's a spoiler. It's just good. It's there when you need it, but I'm not gonna rave about it. People love the Coke. People love the Sprite at McDonald's. I just think it's average, really. I think people just suck it off for no reason. Five Guys, on the other hand, I will say, is great. I think their burgers taste great. I think the fries are a little controversial. I know. I love the fries. Any place that gives you a gigantic paper bag that is literally falling apart from all the grease of the fries is my kind of fast food place. However, it's expensive. It's expensive, and I think it's not really worthy of the hype because of the expense you incur while waiting in the Five Guys line. Jimmy John's, again, good food, quick food, but it's just a sandwich I can make at home, and that's probably pushback you've heard from people about Jimmy John's, but I think that's valid. That doesn't mean I don't get it all the time. It's quick, it's easy, and I feel it is a little healthier than maybe a fried meal, but it's not, mind-blowing, so I don't think it's really deserving of the hype. Speaking of undeserving of the hype, and this one's really going to piss off people if there are any listeners in the West Coast, or you want to be West Coasters who go out and just leave rave reviews for this place. In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out Burger sucks. Me and my brother visited California before, then it must have been 2019, early 2019. And we figured we have to stop by. We have to do the animal fries. We have to do the whole shebang. I hated it. It was the most mid. Like the fries had no flavor. The burgers were just kind of like, and you paid a bunch to be there. You waited in a very long line because, again, every wannabe, Cali person wants to have In-N-Out Burger and take a picture and tell their friends how great it is. It wasn't good. And honestly, if I could put it lower, I would. I just don't know where to put it beyond that. So it lives in overrated. And the rest, I think we all understand the hype. Noodles, it's very expensive. Interesting concept, sort of fast pasta place. Kind of cool, but it's just super expensive. And because of that, I kind of fell out of love with it. But I still see them around. I still see people loving them. Not worthy of the hype. And that basically goes for the rest too. The last three, I'm not necessarily in Panda Express. It's it's okay. Again, different, similar to noodles from Aldi's in that they focus on the Chinese sector, but it's just not real Chinese food, people will tell you. It's the fast food of Chinese food. So it's good, but overrated. And the last three, my personal opinion here is I'm not a huge wings guy. I don't love chicken wings. I like them, but I'm not going to make that my favorite food, nor am I going to make these places my favorite places to go. So they live in overrated. And we are well past the halfway point in this, so bear with me here. Moving up the line, one step up overrated, we have wannabe bourgeois. And in this tier, you have Panera, Shake Shack, and Potbelly. And I think it's pretty clear why I put these three in this so eloquently named tier. All these people want to be the premier spot or stop for you and your family when you're in need of a quick bite, but it's, the normal McDonald's disgusts you, the normal Burger King disgusts you. You can come into Panera where it feels like you're in a Starbucks and you can drink your soup out of a piece of bread. Shake Shack, you can walk in and it looks like you're in a TikToker's living room while you pay $30 for that small burger and fries. And Potbelly is essentially the same, but instead of burger and fries, you get like a smaller sub than you would get at Jersey Mike's for double the price. They're very expensive places that want to look nice, that want to be nice, that offer, perceived nice food, and the food is good, but it's typically expensive and not worth it. But, I put them above the overrated tier because objectively it is just nicer food. And living above wannabe bourgeois, we have overpriced and overrated but good. And here you have Culver's and Chick-fil-A. And it really should be Chick-fil-A and Culver's because Chick-fil-A does deserve the top spot in this tier I hold. They're overpriced and they are overrated. But fuck, they're good. That line don't lie. And I will say I'm a Chick-fil-A lover, but I'm realistic about it. I will not wait in that line. Now, if that line is short and I'm hungry and I'm happy to be driving past one, absolutely, I'm going to pull in. But I will never wait in a fast food drive-through what's going to take me 15 plus minutes. And I know they do a great job of working through the line quickly there. They're an excellent service company. But because of that wait, because of the overhype, they're not all the way at the very top. But very good chicken I will hold. In fact, my family did, was it in 2021? I can't remember. We did the Great Fried Chicken Sandwich Contest. And it was 2 years in the making getting this thing lined up because it turned out to be a very political topic. We could not decide whether to judge sandwiches based on how they are off the menu or if there is a particular way to order, the sandwich that everybody, who orders from this place knows is the best way to have the sandwich. So for example, do we take the chicken, sandwich, the McChicken from McDonald's? I know they have like a premium chicken sandwich as well, as is, versus, the Chick-fil-A basic chicken sandwich without all, the toppings on it? Or do we go for like the deluxe? But what if a place doesn't have a deluxe? Also, can I order the sandwich from Chick-fil-A with Chick-fil-A sauce if the sauce does not come on it directly off the menu? So we went round and around. We argued about this for 2 years, would forget it, bring it back up. And finally, we just said, screw it, get the deluxe version of all the sandwiches if they have them, bring them back to the house, and we just got to get this over with. We got to run it. So the winner of that, actually, and it wasn't unanimous, the Popeyes chicken sandwich did win the Great Chicken Sandwich Contest of 2021, I think we're going to call it here. The breading on that has no business being that good from a fast food place. Objectively, the texture and the flavor of the breading on their chicken sandwich it's all that. It's pretty good. I did not vote for them as my number one. I voted for them as my number two, but I accept the results no less. The Chick-fil-A Deluxe ended up in second. That was my first pick, followed by, and it might have been almost tied, which is crazy, the Burger King Chicken sandwich. I have never seen a piece of chicken so large from a fast food place, and it tasted great. It blew everyone away. Nobody expected the chicken to do as good as it did, but like all things ruined by inflation, your government, the Wuhan flu, they took it away because it was too expensive to continue offering. Thank you. And then I think the last two were the McDonald's like deluxe chicken sandwich and Wendy's in dead last. We also did buy McChickens just because it's a staple. They were the worst ones out of all of them. But moving along, anyways, after that long story, Culver's, similar to Chick-fil-A. It is definitely overpriced, and the line is usually wrapped around the building wherever you find one. But objectively, it's good. Burgers are great, shakes are great, cheese curds are great. It's super Midwest thing. I love it. I think it's great. But again, I'm not going to wait in that line for fast food. So there it lies. And as we near the top last two tiers of this list, we have unironically good. Starting with, and I mean this to start this tier with because it is at the top of this tier, Little Caesars. Yep, this one's really going to piss some people off because I put Domino's dead last, and now I have that hot and ready just shitting on you people at the very top. And I think that hot and ready, one, it unironically tastes good. And people will say, no, you like it because it's such a bargain. You get a large pizza, 8 slices for $5. Yes, that adds to the love for Little Caesars. But I unironically love the way it tastes too. I think it tastes great. Deal with it. I don't need to explain myself any further. So, Little Caesars resides at the top of this tier. Next to this one, I struggled with. And after Little Caesars, there's really no order of love or hate in this tier. Chipotle, Popeyes, Qdoba, and Wendy's. So, Chipotle and Qdoba, I love them both. I tend to lean towards Qdoba just for the choices of quesos that I can get. But any place at the burrito bowl, I'm going to love. So there you go. And they're quick. They are affordable and they're a little healthier. So I feel really good about going through those lines. Popeyes, like I mentioned, they won the chicken sandwich contest. Actually, I regret putting Popeyes in unironically good. They belong in the, I think we go overrated here because they're not necessarily overpriced. But that line, and it was strictly chicken sandwich driven. I know I've had nothing else, and that's why I put them up here. I think in such like a rush, but Popeyes is getting bumped down to overrated because that line's ridiculous. I know the service sucks there, but the chicken sandwich is good. Not worth the hype again because I put them number 2. The family put them number 1, and I got a little too excited, so I put them up there. They don't belong there. And then Wendy's. Wendy's Frosties, best fast food shake. And I mean that, Grimace. Come and get it. They are also the only fast food shake that is made with real milk, which is interesting. And plus, the Frosty and the French fry is iconic. Wendy's gave that to us, so ta-da. You can also get a triple cheeseburger straight off the menu, which is American as shit. And I don't care what you say about the square patties if you think they look gross. They look more like real meat and they taste more like real meat than most of the burgers I get at fast food places. So I like Wendy's. I like the Frosties, the fries, the large burgers, the realness, perceived realness of the burgers, and the spicy nugs. So I'm sorry, Wendy's goes there. And last but not least, the final tier, the one restaurant that sits above them all, the one bell to rule them all. In the pullover tier, we have Taco Bell. And that's right. I see you people. I see you guys hating on them, saying you're going to shit your pants before you get home after eating Taco Bell. You've clearly never had it. And this one, I'm going to open this with something you're not ready to hear. You may not even know this exists. Taco Bell breakfast is unironically one of my top 5 breakfast stops, not even just fast food, 5-star restaurants, diners, whatever, of all time. It is the breakfast crunch wrap is by far the best delivery method and format for eating breakfast I have ever had. The hash brown, the eggs, that sauce, the bacon, it is pure bliss enjoying a breakfast crunch wrap to the point where I'll have 2 or 3 if I go. The only thing I can ding Taco Bell from breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night, the coffee is not like Starbucks level. I'll put it like that. It is not really McDonald's level, I'll be honest. That's the only thing I can ding it on. Their coffee, I'm not going for their coffee, but I'm going for everything else. So Taco Bell breakfast alone for me, based on how much it has changed my life and just how much I love it, goes right there. And beyond that, my typical order, the Crunchwrap Supreme and a chicken quesadilla. It's a staple. It's a tried and true. It is just, I just love it. I don't need to explain myself any more than that, I'm now realizing. And on top of that, I'm going to try to find this so I can link it. If I can't, I'm not lying. I swear. I heard it on a morning radio show that a study was done, which tested all of the protein from several fast food places for how much it actually was made up of real meat. Subway ended dead last at the time, shocker. And Taco Bell, that's right, the diarrhea inducing, the disgusting food poisoning, which you all believe wrongly to come from the Taco Bell, resembled real meat more than any other fast food place. So hold that. Your hatred is misplaced. And I beg you, if you have never been to Taco Bell, if anyone does exist like that, or if you hate Taco Bell, give it another try. If not breakfast, lunch, dinner, no, if not lunch, dinner, or late night, try breakfast, because I think you will find Taco Bell breakfast to be the best fast food breakfast option there has ever been and ever will be. And I will continue spreading that word because nobody expects it, and still not many people have heard of it. Here's a hot take. I put Taco Bell up here without the Baja Blast. I don't like it. I don't like the flavor. That's all I'm going to say about that. Still love Taco Bell, though. And that is going to do it for this episode of the Full Metal Cast. Thank you for sticking with me here as I've rambled on about my personal life and how I have adopted stoicism in certain parts, as well as my over-politicized opinions about certain fast food places. But before sort of sounding off here, in last week's episode, I had asked you to send me any gun bunnies or female firearm influencers you would like to see on the show, so that we can ask some questions, go back and forth, sort of have a dialogue, strictly in the name of getting a new perspective. I think it'll be fun. It's always good to learn new things and hear from people who we may not hear from in our everyday lives, in the echo chambers that we put ourselves into. So continue sending me any names or accounts you'd like me to reach out to. I am reaching out to the ones that I follow, but obviously there are so many and I can't follow them all. So any good ones I'm unaware of, just keep sending them in. I don't care how obvious you may think it is. I'm going to keep working to get one on the show as soon as possible. And with that, continue valuing the present. Do not be afraid to live your life. Do not be afraid of death, rather, but be afraid to never live your life because you are so afraid of death or because you are so afraid of the opinions of others. Continue touching grass and going to the gym and utilizing moderation as the seasoning for pleasure. Stay metal. Thank you.